In the previous video, we briefly touched on the concept of the Earth, describing it as a process of generation or transmutation. This segment is an elaboration on that idea. The meaning of any Quranic concept can only be attained and understood within the cosmological framework established in the Quran, as the Quran has a cosmology of its own much different than that adopted today. This was discussed in the last video. Modern cosmology is quite narrow. It stops short. Reality, or real things, is what can be ascribed a certain weight, dimension, and mass, and what can be classified. Its definitions are classifications, taxonomies, and categories. The Earth is called a planet, occupying what it calls space, an edgeless void housing countless number of Earth-like planets. In the Quran, there is no such thing as a planet. Earth is simply the process by which things become manifest and apparent, a process more than a place. Hence we find in the Quran the term yalij, which describes this very process. It's used in a certain context as an idiom of improbability, likening the chance which a disbeliever has of entering paradise to the instance in which a camel begins to emerge through the eye of a needle. Yalij here does not refer to the end of the process where the camel has successfully emerged through the eye of the needle, but rather to the beginning, the moment in which this process begins to happen. The expression is used in another context to describe how day breaks through the night and vice versa. Emergence, roughly the meaning of yalij, refers to the very instance in which the possibility of a thing translates into actuality. It captures transitions between states in their minute and undetectable beginnings, where the transition begins to take effect. The sunny notions of life beyond Earth is as vacuous as the space in which the Earth is imagined to be suspended. Earth, as a concept, is incomprehensible without the corresponding notion of habitability. This does not mean that Earth cannot be barren, as barrenness is meaningful only in relation to habitability. What's barren is either potentially or formally habitable. Remove this and Earth will soon follow. And as such, Earth is but a bundle of associations, a sum of the ideas of comfort, habitability, reality, homeliness, stability, etc. This is why in the Quran is found, in association with it, the term carpet, base, and other domestically inclined ideas. When the Earth is spoken of, it's those ideas that are implied by it. We speak of habitable planets, yet from the cosmological perspective of the Quran, Earth is so inclusive a concept as to house any and all representations of concrete reality. Earth is the universe, and the universe is the Earth. And in this universe, there are no notions, no categories more inclusive. When the question is asked, what's beyond the edge of the universe, we're either imagining an Earth devoid of these associations, or Earth with a different climatic and geological expression. Either way, it's the Earth as we know it. Earth as the hostess of life that we commit those various modifications to every time. The reality is, the Earth is inexhaustible, an enormous machine that constantly generates, and so long as there are life forms, and so long as those life forms embody in the world configurations and roles that are indispensable to the overall expression of the universe, things that move, things involved in process, we have an Earth as the immobile, superordinating principle. This is the general language of the Quran. The name of something is its most distinguished attribute, or what characterizes it the most, or its unique pattern of being. The Earth, for example, also means satisfaction, yarda. It captures life and its forms not as accidents, as things that just so happen to be, a tree being a tree, a mountain, but quite the opposite. It pictures them as processes that are renewed at each moment. A mountain has a function which it fulfills every passing moment. A life form is active just by being. The frequency and speed with which something is recognized serves as our sole valid unit of measurement as regards the reality of a tree, earth, a mountain. They occur, let's say, at the speed of consciousness. Speed itself is a relational concept. It's something that's predicated on the existence of things. Speed, after all, is a judgment or mode. It only means anything in relation to other things. Each moment in which the sense and meaning of earth, tree, or sun comes to mind is equivalent to the very moment of their creation. Each moment that you think of a tree is no different than the moment in which it was first created, in that it's a thing that predates our awareness of it. In fact, you do create it when you think it. The universe is regenerated at the speed of consciousness. It's never old. This is the pattern which governs the meaning of ard. It's a place, true. It's the plane which my body occupies. But my body is a process, and so are those things that make up my body. Earth is also the mental sphere in which I am able to recognize that fact, the immobile background against which motion is perceived. When we think things, we practically recreate them. We reenact the pattern of their being. We rediscover them. We bring them into being from relative oblivion. Considered more closely, this is the ultimate truth, a truth that stands above all scientific truths. As before we even have a thing to scientifically interpret, the thing must first appear. It must be disclosed. It must reach the state of mindfulness before any analytical judgment is thrown at it. Any scientifically attainable truth embodies this phenomenological function. The thing that's the object of my perception, the thing I am perceiving, before it's a tree, a mountain, a star, is first apparent. Thus, in pure mathematics and mechanics, we use the concept of point and line in place of qualitied objects to articulate things in their most basic representational form, a unit of consciousness. The true holistic sense and meaning of Earth is found here. The apparent, the existential, the mentally and physically present, given its generality, its indistinction, its lack of unique qualities, is Earth itself. A tree, a human, a cloud, a vehicle are all united or fall under the term apparent. In the progress of consciousness, which functions sort of like a film, forms are initially undifferentiated. The mind does not initially distinguish or tell apart one thing from another. Only gradually does it come to separate a tree from a river, animal from a plant. The point from which it begins to isolate, distinguish, tell apart, is not a state of unconsciousness, not a non-place. It is a place, a formless place, the greatest, most real place. It is the earth itself. Thus we occupy the earth not after the fact, not a posteriori, not accidentally, but rather indigenously, or ab initio. The earth is where you already stand physically or mentally before you're aware of a tree or a mountain. Our act of cognition, of identifying distinct objects in space, is a phenomenological process which depicts the earth in exactly the way in which God had first created it. Thus, when God says that we created you from it, it intends to say much more than is usually implied. The earth is not a place, so much as a phenomenological process which we enact unconditionally every time our mind presents anything to us.